Trinidad and Tobago Tour News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Citizens say they are hopeful that their budget concerns will be addressed. A one-on-one with the Minister of Foreign Affairs at the UN General Assembly. And the Minister of Local Government highlights his plans to stimulate the economy. Thank you for joining us. As many look to Finance Minister, the Honorable Larry Hawai, to make his maiden budget presentation, citizens say they are hopeful that their concerns will be addressed, from tax incentives to subsidies, healthcare and education to crime. These are just a few of the issues citizens say they want to see taken care of in this year's budget.
With Budget Day here, many eagerly await pronouncements for this year's fiscal package. Consultations have been held and the package is said to be ready for delivery. We took the opportunity to ask citizens what were some of the items on their wish list for the 2012-2013 budget.
My wish list for the budget will be two issues. I would like to see lots of funding in healthcare and the property tax issue being resolved, and a firm decision being made as to what land and building taxes or the Property Tax Act or what will be provided.
I'm just hoping that the country can benefit and be able to grow and develop further in terms of both economical and social development. I'm hoping that the government can put things in place so that people can lift themselves up from the slum that they're in, especially in all of the turmoil that we're having today.
I would like them to reduce some of the food prices and things like that.
I would like to see the government focus on two major things which I think the country needs right now: crime and healthcare. I think those two areas should be the major focus of the government.
Many are hopeful that provision of education will remain on top of government's agenda.
I think it will be important that they maintain the gate funding, because that has opened so many doors for many people who are not able to afford funding to go to tertiary schools or stuff like that.
I think I just want to see a focus on education more. I really want to see them take away the gate and hopefully something for housing and a plan against crime.
I'd like to see more money getting put into education and the healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago.
Former trade unionist Clyde Weatherhead is advising government to clear the backlog of outstanding wages.
Possibility of some kind of national arrangement where the question of wages, prices, profits, etc. can be brought into an arrangement for the future. I think that needs to be pursued as well. They've done it in Barbados, and I see no reason why we can't try it in Trinidad and Tobago.
Meanwhile, Philip Hamill-Smith says stability is much needed in the economy at this time and remains positive that Minister Hawai is the man for the job.
If I had to stick a pin in an area where I really feel the minister could do could do something really worthwhile for the country, is to start attacking that high subsidy level that we've carried all through the years. So my aspiration is to hear him say something about a plan to get in there and to dismantle in some small way if necessary, but in a positive way, that subsidy bill.
While some anticipate the finance minister's maiden budget to take a narrow course, others say Minister Hawai's presentation just might be the one to steer the economy to brighter days ahead. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
In other news, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Winston Dukaran, is representing Trinidad and Tobago at the United Nations General Assembly. Foreign Affairs correspondent Gideon Hanuman Singh had a one-on-one interview with the minister on his activities. Day 4 at the UN General Assembly.
Minister, I got the impression from your meeting with the minister from the United Kingdom that there is some kind of excitement about further relations between Britain and Trinidad and Tobago. Is that your impression as well?
Well, the Minister of Overseas Development has been recently appointed in that position, and we discussed the question of deepening the economic and trade relations between Trinidad and Tobago and the United Kingdom. There was a lot of enthusiasm for assisting us in the development of Port of Spain as a financial center in the region. And he agreed that that is an area that we can talk about in greater detail. As you're well aware, London is perhaps one of the most mature and long-standing financial centers in the world. There's a lot of British interest in Trinidad and Tobago, and we discussed the issue of ensuring that the energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago continues to perform its role, but that there is need to have mechanisms in place for ensuring that there is a proper sharing of the benefits of that sector. And he agreed in principle that these are issues that we can talk about.
But the minister also seems excited about issues relating to security and agriculture.
That's right. In fact, he was very keen on complementing the efforts that we've been making in regional security as well as in the security in Trinidad and Tobago. And he indicated his interest to work with us in that particular regard. On my part, I sought his support for the small arms treaty that we are promoting here in the United Nations. And he said he will certainly give that his consideration, for a number of major countries have provided support, and I was seeking the support of the United Kingdom in that venture of ours. We have sought support from countries in Africa on this particular matter, and I've really joined with them. There are many different proposals for the reform of the Security Council. It is a difficult issue, but it's an issue that we believe will be more reflective of the changing political dynamics of the world, and will also provide a basis for changing how the United Nations operates. So you're quite right. I also sense, though, a toning down of the rhetoric of the past and an engagement of the issues before us. And clearly there is a very difficult issue with respect to the Syrian situation and with respect to the Israel-Palestine situation. And we have been at the background trying to give vent to a view that dialogue is necessary. Diplomacy must be given a chance to solve this, but the urgency of it is what we are bringing to bear, because we cannot allow 30,000 people to lose their life, which is the figure that was given to me, maybe right or wrong, and just have a blind eye. And I think the conscience of the United Nations is now being challenged here. And to some extent, the fact that the United Nations may have lost a little bit of its legitimacy in dealing with these hard political issues have emerged. I attended a meeting of the Security Council of the United Nations, and I listened to all the permanent members and non-permanent members speak on this issue. And I did feel that there was a sense of expectation that something must happen, but there was no real proposal on the table to make it happen. And therefore the sense of legitimacy of the United Nations, whose resolutions in the past have largely been not implemented, is at stake. So I think we are at a time in the United Nations where there is at the leadership level a genuine feeling of having an open book with respect to the future. Now perhaps I could tell you CARICOM, and I was a member of the CARICOM team, which is led by Dr. Anthony from St. Lucia, met with the Secretary General of the United Nations. And some of these issues were raised in a very candid way. And the Secretary General responded equally candidly to the Caribbean, saying that we indeed must continue to play the role that we want to play, and that the issues that we have raised are issues that are important, but there is also the need for us to accept the fact that we must work together. And he applauded the Caribbean for being one of the solid group that have worked together with the principles of the United Nations.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Winston Dukeran, Day 4 at the United Nations General Assembly. More news after the break. Stay with us. The government is seeking to eradicate the problem of a shortage of medical supplies which plague the public health sector. This is the assurance being given by Health Minister Dr. the Honorable Fuad Khan.
The government will spend over $60 million to ensure that no one who relies on the state for medication is denied due to a shortage. Health Minister Dr. Fuad Khan made the announcement while addressing the nation. He explains that this decision comes as the government has heard the cries of persons who utilize the Chronic Disease Assistance Program. Some persons have complained of a shortage of drugs in the program, which provides citizens with free prescription drugs and other pharmaceutical items.
Cabinet has approved approximately $63 million for the procurement of the CDAP drugs. We have heard recently that there has been a bit of a shortage in these items, and this shortage and the stockouts as well as the emergency items will be decreased, and we will facilitate the drugs to the public health sector institutions, the antiretroviral drugs, the CDAP program, the National Organ Transplant Program, and also the provisions of the blood glucose monitoring machines as well as the strips for the chronic disease program.
Minister Khan also reveals that Cabinet has agreed on plans to build a warehouse to house various medical items and pharmaceutical supplies to assist in the reduction of the shortage. Part of this plan will allow for the process by which public health institutions request supplies to be upgraded. He adds that this will also assist persons seeking medical care at those institutions, as they will now be able to receive a higher level of treatment. He insists that the upgrade will now ensure a stable supply of medical items and pharmaceutical supplies to public health institutions.
The Ministry of Health will be embarking upon developing this own warehouse in Rail Spring, Valsayn, and we'll be procuring and also developing a construction of a new modern warehouse, and this will facilitate easy access and distribution. We are also upgrading the NCOM system for the public health institutions to develop the process of requesting pharmaceuticals and non-pharmaceuticals as they go forward to decrease the level of stockouts at the various establishments.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
One cannot build prosperity on the basis of the existing structure of the economy, and one also cannot build it without innovation. This is the message from Planning Minister Dr. the Honorable Bohendranath Tiwari. The minister was speaking at a business convention at the Caribbean Industrial Research Institute's, that's Kariri Center, for Enterprises Development.
Speaking at the Kariri Seminar on Business Innovation, the minister says the economic growth required in Trinidad and Tobago cannot always be achieved by the following traditional business models.
What really is strategic management? And it was a spontaneous response, I suspect, because I'd been thinking about it for, over and over again in different situations. And I responded by saying that strategic management is the ability to achieve your objectives no matter what the environmental conditions. Now, you may disagree with that, and that's fine. But I think in many ways it's true. If you set objectives for yourself as an individual, as an institution, as a company, the world is as it is. Things will happen.
He says a competitive, innovation-driven economy is now an imperative for sustainability and prosperity, and that entrepreneurship must be the driving force for generating higher levels of constant growth.
We've had the competitiveness report before us now for a few weeks, and we realize that Trinidad and Tobago needs to do a lot more in order to win its place in the world on the basis of competitiveness. And many of the issues that have been mentioned have to do with the climate and the environment in which businesses operate. This particular study, using actual businesses here, and I have not read it, so I don't know the details. All the information I have is some of what you have by your exposure here.
The minister says business owners need to adapt a capacity for innovativeness in order to make a difference in their companies. In other developments, the minister says there are a number of new projects his ministry will be embarking upon in the new fiscal year. One new project to emerge from the ministry will be the Sustainable City Initiative, developing long-term strategies for the fiscal, environmental and urban management of Port of Spain. He reveals that last year's funds saw 50 innovators and inventors monitored by 3 business state enterprises, and he hopes to increase the number of participants in this initiative this year. News 4 understands that 5 main sectors of the economy in the upcoming budget will be focused on crime and law and order, hospitals and healthcare, poverty eradication and human development, food security and sustainability and competitiveness, innovation and growth and development. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us.
Look at
TT Pro League outfit Caledonia AIA ended their CONCACAF Champions League journey on a disappointing note with a 2-1 loss to CD Marathon of Honduras. With both teams out of the running for a quarterfinal spot, the Morval Laventille squad was hoping to leave a mark on the tournament, but Marathon was a little bit better at home on the night. Wayne Cunningham was in San Pedro Sula, and he has the highlights.
The Olympic Stadium in San Pedro Sula was the venue for Caledonia AIA's final match in the 2012-2013 CONCACAF Champions League. They faced home team Club Deportivo Marathon for second place in Group 5, which was already won by Seattle Sounders, who booked the lone place to the quarterfinals. On August 22nd, the teams played to a 0-0 draw at the Atto Boldon Stadium in Couva, but AIA had thoughts of going one better. Nathan Lewis and Keon Edwards combining well to test Jose Mendoza in the marathon goal. National forward Jamal Gay should have done better with this cross from Vincentian Cornelius Stewart as AIA continued to press for the opener. Marathon were not just standing around. Glenroy Samuel had to be alert for this Julian Rapallo shot. Tulio Vega also tested Samuel, but once again he proved his worth and kept the scores level going into the break. Samuels continued to do well in the second half, but in the 53rd minute, his defenders failed to back him up following this save, and Harrison Roches was on spot to make it 1-0 Marathon. AIA coach Jamal Shabazz then boosted the forward line with the introduction of Abdullah Phillips and Treon Bob as they went into all-out attack. First Gay, then Denzel Theobald going over the top with their attempts. Caledonia was looking the better team at this point, but the finishing needed to improve. And improve it did in the 73rd minute. Phillips stealing the ball from the defender and doing well to set up Gay, who tied the score at 1. Unfortunately for AIA, it did not stay that way. Jonathan Reyes lifting the ball over Samuel for Marathon to take the lead for good in the 81st minute. The home team held off all other challenges from the Caribbean champions to grab second place in the group with a game in hand. The next task for AIA is the defense of the first Citizens Cup. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Dr. The Honorable Suraj Ratan Rambachan, Minister of Local Government, is highlighting his plan to stimulate the economy. Speaking at a breakfast meeting of the Chaguanas Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Dr. Rambachan explains how his ministry will be the catalyst of economic development.
The local government minister is underscoring the important role his ministry plays in revitalizing the economy and addressing social ills and issues. While addressing the Chaguanas Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Dr. Rambachan explains exactly how his ministry fills this role.
Local government energizes the economy and is the cradle for sustainable development. Of course, on the other side of the equation, as I said, there is the social impact of the projects undertaken in terms of its contribution to the alleviation of poverty, enhancing public health and environmental conservation, and what have you.
The minister believes that persons involved in the URP now have a different sense of purpose and can now see their contribution to national development and the effect it has on communities. He suggests that this new outlook has allowed for an increase in the program's productivity and as such is contributing greatly to this country's economic development.
This means that 260 communities in the last 2 months had projects going on which contributed to employment, which contributed to the small contracting sector. And when the small contracting sector gets going, what happens is the hardwares get going. When the hardwares get going and people have employment, people are able to spend money in the country. So the entertainment sector gets going. The business sector, the clothing stores gets going. The groceries gets going. So that you have a tremendous impact when you can start up work in local government through the URP and through local government.
Dr. Rambachan also reveals that he has put things in place to ensure that most regional corporations will be able to access funds soon after the budget is read. This, he says, will provide an economic boost for the nation in time for Christmas.
When the budget is read next week and passed in the House of Representatives, immediately 10 of these corporations can then approach the Ministry of Local Government, where we have already begun to check those projects, and we are able within 1 week or 2 weeks at the most to approach the Ministry of Finance and say we are ready to draw down money in order to start work. So that there is no gap in unemployment. And what that does, again, because a lot of these works are then tendered, it brings the small contracting sector back into operation. It brings all those people who are waiting for employment back into operation. What that does is further. It helps you with the Christmas season and with business so that everyone, is happy. The people have money to spend, the businesses are earning, they can keep their employees going, and you have a dynamic economy taking place locally in these areas.
The 2012-2013 budget will be read on Monday, October 1st. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.